there, Ghost Cats and Ghost Kittens. I just want to touch bases with you about a couple things. Number one, thanks everybody for clicking and watching a lot of the videos that I've been doing now. I've been expanding a lot of what I'm doing on my YouTube channel. I want to start doing better stuff, bigger stuff. I want to start doing a lot more short documentary work and that sort of thing. So all your support, I really do appreciate it. Please, you know, you've heard it before, like, share, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. But sharing is actually pretty important right now because I can't monetize without the 1,000 followers, so many viewing hours, all that kind of stuff. So it's really important that you do help us out. Any of you YouTube creators, not just myself, but anybody else who you like and support, please go ahead and you know, share it around. Try to stir up what we need to be able to do our job. And if I can monetize, I can do my job better and more effectively. The more income I have, the more places I can go, the more things that I can see, the more things I can produce. So with that being said, as everyone who actually knows me personally or has followed me for a little while knows, I do work for the DragonCon International Film Festival that we do every year in Atlanta, Georgia, the first week in September. This year was no exception. We didn't have a film festival per se this year, but we did have a film track, which I helped out on. Hopefully that film festival will start back up next year. COVID, you know, screwed the whole world up, so this DragonCon was no exception. So that being said, what I'm going to present to you today after this introduction is a panel that I was on during that film festival. It's all about movies so bad they're good, which is something I know a lot about. I know a lot about bad movies, so just keep watching, enjoy. Again, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, support your favorite YouTube channel. We can't do it without you, and we really want to produce better and better and better content for you. So thanks a lot.
So this is our Monday. We're a little bit more laid back here. We're keen for interaction with you all, so hopefully we'll get some yelling back and forth. And what we're looking at today is what's called the movies that are so bad they're good. We'll talk about that in concept, hopefully a little bit before we just devolve into shouting about what our favorite films are in those cases. But to give us just a vague feeling of the sorts of films that we'll be looking at, let's see if we can go ahead and dim those lights and take a look at a few clicks.
They come from the bowels of hell, a transformed race of walking dead. Zombies guided by a master plan for complete domination of the earth. Plan 9 from outer space. And they take them to a creature like this, you know they're on planet Venus. And the queen of outer space is Zsa Zsa Gabor.
All right, lights back up. So we know what realm of film we're dealing with. Before digging into the heart of individual films, we should get some introductions here. So I've been going first all the time, so I'll go last here. And John, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you very much. Good morning to all of you. Did you have to rush over here from breakfast? I know I did.
What's breakfast?
So my name is Dr. John Flynn. I was a college professor and dean for 32 years with the University of Maryland System. Now retired, and I write full time, and I'm working right now on book number 21. So you'll see me taking notes. They're not about the panel, they're about an idea that I just came up for book number 21. And I write mysteries for the Mystery Writers of America, and I write science fiction for the SFWA. So I'm so happy to be here. This is my 39th DragonCon.
Patrick.
Hi, how's everybody doing? Patrick Roberts. If you've been to the DragonCon Film Festival for the last, 22 years, something like that, you've probably seen my face hiding behind lots of equipment. But I'm a Emmy-nominated photojournalist and videographer, presently working in television, making terrible shows and all sorts of ridiculous things. But I've been doing this for a very long time.
He's our editor and tech guru. And I am Matthew Foster. I am the director of the DragonCon Film Festival for many a year, except of course right now it's closed due to COVID. I've been a MC at festivals, I've been judge at festivals, I've been on selection committees of festivals, so pretty much lots of festival stuff. Also written a book, only one. Okay, I got two, but only one about film.
You'll catch up.
Yeah, I'll whip out those other 18 tomorrow, like 3 times. So, Birth of Monsters, a guide to 1930s horror cinema. So feel free to rush out to Amazon right this minute. And
He's being coy. It's actually a really good book. It really is.
well, I think it's great.
That's fantastic.
Let's talk about movies that are so bad they're good, and let's start with conceptual nature. John, do you think that sentence even makes sense? Are there films that are so bad they're good? What does that mean to you?
Well, I divide them into a couple of categories, and I'd like to know if you guys think about this as well. There are those people who don't have filmmakers that don't have the money, and so they're pouring their hearts and souls into a particular product. And surprise, surprise, 1 out of every 10 maybe, or maybe that number is different. They're rolling the dice, and they're actually coming up with something that shows a lot of heart, and it's so much fun for us to watch it. So that's one of the categories. The second, I would say, is there are people out there that get millions of dollars and they think that they're going to make the next Star Wars or something else, and it ends up being a big flop. But because it was a big flop, it then ends up being having a cult following behind it. So those are 2 of the categories that I would put them into, and I'd love to know if you think there's another one there as well.
I do. Actually.
Yes.
Yeah. I actually think that there's some films and some directors especially who are people out of their time, where what they conceive of and what they develop early in their careers are things that eventually catch up, and people finally catch on to them many years later. But when they're released, people just don't know what to do with them. We were talking to John Carpenter earlier. I would say a lot of the early Carpenter films are exactly like that, where it's people either didn't watch them or didn't like them in 1985 or whatever, but here we are 20, 30 years later. I'm getting old, so it's 30 years later.
10 years.
5 years later. And people are finally starting to catch on that, your Big Trouble in Little China's are actually, those are cool films. Mm-hmm. And they got kind of lost in the shuffle at the time, completely dismissed until people are rediscovering them, and now it's like, oh crap, that's a great gem. So
I agree with you on that. I think that makes sense. I think of The Thing, the version of The Thing that Carpenter made, And that was the year that Blade Runner was out. I mean, there was a lot of great product that year, but in particular, E.T. People went back to see E.T. a million times, and they missed Carpenter's The Thing.
Yeah.
And that's the best version of The Thing that's out there.
By
and
far.
over the course of time, people have rediscovered it, so to speak. So
Yeah.
I agree with you. So we think about those three in terms of bad that they're good.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
Now I have, interesting, as the person who created this panel, I have problems with the term because there's another use for it. For a long time, I pretty much didn't believe in any so bad they're good ones. Actually, what won me over to the whole concept was one of the clips. Wasn't one of those clips up there. You'll have to work that out as we go along. But one of those films changed my mind. But this is still going on, although this happened more when I was younger, which was often so bad they're good. Was used as a way for somebody who wanted to denigrate an entire area of film, and this was their way to kind of get around it. And what we'd see that normally was with genre film, science fiction, fantasy, and horror, that people would say, all science fiction, fantasy, and horror are crap. They're all bad films. Usually there'd be a couple exceptions of saying you'd usually get a, well, 2001, that's the example that proves the rule. Science fiction's all terrible. And you go, yeah, so you didn't like Star Wars? Well, I enjoyed Star Wars, but it's not a good film. It was just so bad that I enjoyed it.
Right.
And I'd hear this a lot. In fact, when we're talking about Carpenter, I used to hear this all the time with Carpenter, particularly with Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah.
Apparently I wasn't listening for The Thing, but yeah, The Thing got really dumped on.
It did, unfortunately. Was that August maybe when it came out?
It came out opposite E.T. within a week.
Okay, so sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same day as Blade Runner, they get released on the same day.
Oh wow.
But there's,
That's a rough one to go
I was looking, when I was looking up things for this, I found Ebert's view of The Mummy 1999, and that was his take on it, was that it's a bad film. It's juvenile. It's just not very good at all. But I liked it. But it's a bad film. And I'm like, no, that's not so bad. It's a good film. That's a good film.
Yeah.
I mean, we can take a look at dialogue. We can take a look at action. We can take a look at That's a good film. That's not so bad. It's good. So we have that as well.
We can talk forever about Ebert's takes on a lot of films.
And he's still one of my favorites.
Oh yeah. No, don't get me wrong. I love Roger Ebert, but
Yeah.
some of his picks are.
So we have that, which I think is
Sure.
an issue.
Actually, after one film that we'll be talking about came out, he gave it an absolutely horrible review. And I keep hearing bad things every time I come to a convention about it. But after a couple of months went by, I wrote Ebert and I said, I helped a little bit with the promotion on that film. And I said, I think it's worth another look, because I think you just grouped that into all of those bad things without really realizing what the director was doing and so on. And Ebert wrote me back. I was very surprised. We had an email exchange, and he said, I will look at it a second time. And that's unusual for Ebert to do that. Usually he renders his decision and it's in stone. Of course, he's no longer with us, but I was surprised that he actually gave it a second look. And the director was so happy that I asked him to look at it a second time, because it was just condemned right out. So,
Was that The Thing?
no. You'll learn.
He's saving it.
I'm saving it for you.
Building anticipation, nice.
Right?
Boom, boom, boom.
Now, there's another thing with which will, I think, influence of films we're even going to specifically talk about, which is a lot of times I'm not sure that it has anything to do with the film. It has more to do with you and your friends and just how good you are at doing your own riff tracks on a film. So really any film can be so bad it's good if you happen to be really good at making up your own quips. And a lot of times I've seen that someone says, "This film's so bad, it's good." We sat around my 5 friends with 6 beers, and we all had a great time. It's like, yeah, the film's still horrible. I'm sorry. To name names, I'll start with like Manos.
Oh, God.
Manos is just bad. There's no so bad it's good about it. It's just a horrifically bad film. Now, you can have fun with it if you're drunk enough and have enough friends, but getting something out of that film, that's a problem.
Meta masterpiece. What are you talking about?
So any other general thoughts about
Jim, I like what you just said because I've always been a big fan of Genesis 2. Anyone know that? That's Gene Roddenberry's first big thing after
Yes.
Star.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And everybody likes Earth. Is it Earth 2 or Planet Earth or the sequel? Everyone seems to like that better than Genesis 2 because it has John Saxon versus a guy that was more or less an unknown from the first film. And they complain, there are a bunch of guys running around in jock straps in Genesis 2. And they have these lightsabers, only they don't light up, but they shock people. But I always thought that was genius. But then I hear my friends afterwards saying, well, we like the other one better. And, that was the second take. And they put in, this action hero kind of figure, John Saxon. And that seemed to work better for audiences than this original gentleman. So.
Yes.
Okay.
do you have any general thoughts?
I have a lot of general thoughts.
Okay, we'll dig into film then.
Yeah, you know me. I understand what good films are, but for me, generally speaking, if a film is entertaining me, then it's doing 99% of its job. I like films that that get me thinking, or let me experience parts of the world or ideas or whatever that I otherwise wouldn't. But for me, film's first mission is to hook me and keep me there, and it's a little bit of art that I can cling on to. And if that is your next Oscar-winning masterpiece, or if it's something Lloyd Kaufman puts out, which one am I going to be more entertained with? Toxic Avenger or whatever Oscar bait that Hollywood's out of me. I'm going with Toxie. So if it's entertaining, I'm good. I'll keep watching if it's good, if it's entertaining me.
Whereas I'm our snob.
Oh, completely.
And I'm more likely to simply say that some of these films that other people that they're actually good. And I mean that was my whole youth of the Universal movies, where people would say, "Oh, those aren't good." And no, The Wolfman is a good movie. It's
Wolfman
not,
is a good movie. Yeah.
I'm not having to go in and say
It's okay.
Explain it that way.
It's low rent Dracula. Is what it is.
Claude Rains' ghost will come for you.
I know. I wake up every night fearing that. So, what's the one Lloyd Kaufman film about the aircraft carrier? Because I love that. That time travels back to.
Yeah.
Hold it, that's Lloyd Kaufman?
That's it was distributed by Troma.
Yeah.
It was a final
The Final Countdown.
Final countdown. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was
So-
It was distributed by Troma.
Troma.
Where
Yeah.
the hell did they get money to do that?
I think that they just did distribution. I could.
Wow.
That's true.
Yeah, Lloyd's
That's
not
true.
here, of course, anymore. But he can tell you for sure. But I think that they just did distribution. I don't think that they actually. That it was. I think it was produced by another company, and then they did distribution on it.
No,
Yeah.
as you well know, I love Lloyd.
Oh yeah, I love Lloyd. Lloyd's great.
Lloyd
So-
and I got
so-
along really well,
so-
but boy,
yeah.
that's not
So
what I
it's-
would have thought in his.
Right. So it's not all bad coming
Right.
out of Troma.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Then you have Tales from the Crapper, which is.
which he asked me to show here, and I did.
You did. I know.
I'm so
I'm
sorry.
glad I missed it.
Yeah.
The title really tells you all you need to know.
Yep.
He does appear in a plastic bag
Garbage
in
bag.
it as
That's
the
it.
crab keeper.
Mhm.
It's got Ron Jeremy.
Okay, if we are looking
wow.
for so bad it's good, this is just so bad it's bad. But
Yeah.
this is the movie you do want the 5 drinks with, and you will still have fun with it, because
Yes.
this was a movie made from 2 movies that Troma had been making, and both productions fell apart. So they had 2 movies that were unfinished, and they just had pieces of them. So they just took the 2 films, stuck them together, and with him being the connecting piece by saying he was the crap keeper. And literally, it was a plastic garbage bag he just
Yep.
put over his head, stuck through it, and I am the crap keeper.
Yeah.
I have crap. And then they did things like the second of the 2 films, they just they sped it up. So they just play it was just a slightly faster than normal speed, and then they just dubbed over it, so that they weren't using any of the original voices. And it wasn't clear to me if they actually had the original voices anymore or what. So it's just kind of random things that people, oh, let's go over there, and speaking like that. Oh, let's go over there. Okay, let's go over there. All right, let's go. So it's an experience. But let's try for our so bad they're good. Since we're up here and claiming knowledge of these things, John, let's go ahead and start with.
Sure.
What have you got for us?
Well, back in the year 2000, here at DragonCon, okay, the director Roger Christian was here, okay? So some of you may know where I'm going with this.
One has
And
identified.
I was helping out with the Writers of the Future competition, and as a college professor, they and a writer, they put me into helping judge some of the stories that the kids were doing, and I was out in California a number of times for their Writers of the Future event. But Roger Christian won 2 Academy Awards. You may not be aware of that, but he won an Academy Award for Star Wars. He was the set decorator on Star Wars, and he did a similar job on Alien as well. And so 2 years running, he received the Oscar. So Roger had always hoped to be a director, and one of the projects that he signed on to do was Battlefield Earth, the year 2000. And he was here with the film, and the film had just come out that summer of 2000. And Roger was on quite a few panels. There were a number of us who sat in on the panels with Roger and asked him questions, or tried to help him out. And Roger really felt that he had made another Star Wars. And I don't know if you've seen the film recently, but I would urge you to do it. And this is what I said to Roger Ebert was, please go back and look at it. Now, there are a number of camera angles that are in it that don't need to be there. And John Travolta, yeah, quite a few of them. And John Travolta.
All of them with the lens cap on.
No, that's not fair. He did take the lens cap off. And John Travolta, when he originally read Battlefield Earth, and I've read Battlefield Earth, I'm not a Scientology. Let me tell you, there's nothing in the book about Scientology. It just so happens to have been written by L. Ron Hubbard. John Travolta originally wanted to play Johnny Goodboy Tyler in the film, so that's the hero in the film. And I guess the film just took so long that John Travolta was no longer in that sort of heroic stage. So he ended up playing, the evil cyclo leader that you see in the film. And he's absolutely terrible doing that. And the performance, he ended up receiving a Razzie that year for the performance. So I must say there are good elements to the film, and I would very much encourage you to go back and see it. Roger does. Do you remember the wipes that take place in Star Wars? Again, we're talking editing here, but it moves very smoothly from one scene to the next. Roger decided he would go back to that same technique of moving from scene to scene with those wipes, and it looks good. But he also borrows parts from too many other movies, and I think this is one of the sort of downfalls behind it, because you have elements from Star Wars. You've got these rebels fighting against an evil galactic empire, okay? You've got Planet of the Apes in there, no apes, but you've got these good guys acting like primitive man. You've got the elements from Independence Day where they fight against the evil Cyclos again. They're in Harrier jets that have been stored for 1,000 years in the cave. It's amazing they're still working, so those must have been pretty good jets, or, you know, that's what we ended up doing.
And solid fuel caps.
Oh, absolutely, you know, and
that they could fly them.
and that they could fly. Well, you know, that was the thing. There was a teaching device that was introduced in the book, and so Johnny is captured, and the aliens see that he's a little bit further advanced than some of the other primitive guys there, and so they give him the opportunity to be in the teaching machine, and that's how he learns about what the Cyclos are up to, and he begins teaching other humans when the Cyclos aren't looking, and suddenly they're up to the level of these Cyclo characters, and you know, they decided that they were going to take out the Cyclo planet. And it's an ingenious scheme. They do have teleportation, similar to Star Trek here. So they teleport some nukes to the bad guy's home planet and blow it up, and that's coolly done in the movie. So there's a lot to speak of it. But the problem with the movie is we only see the first half of the movie, the first half of the book rather. The first half deals with us battling back against the Cyclos, and after we defeat the Cyclos again in the book, we are now the supreme power in the universe in regards to all the other alien races that are out there, and they decide that they have to come to Earth and pay homage to us. And the second half of the book is actually a whole lot better, a whole lot more interesting than the first half, but that's what we have with Battlefield Earth. So thoughts on it, guys?
There is a lot to appreciate with Battlefield Earth. If you watch it stylistically, it is set design, your costuming, that sort of thing. The lighting, visually, it's not a terrible film. I think that with that one, as with most things in the world, I think it needed strong editing in the scripting process.
Yep.
Before it was ever shot, because I think that, and then of course better casting, because like you said, John Travolta, he just isn't that character, and he could not pull that off. And I don't know if it was like he just woke up one morning and was like, oh man, it's like 10:30, I gotta go be a bad guy today. Like without even no preparation of whatever, he wasn't even trying, just totally filmed in. And I think that was true with a lot of characters in that film, was like they didn't realize what they were making. So everybody seemed to be acting in a different film.
Yeah.
So there was consistency there was continuity, but there was some stuff visually that had the makings for a decent film. It was all the things we just talked about that made it all kind of fall apart. I mean, the dialogue was hokey, the execution was hokey, some of the editing was kind of the camera angles. You'd have the camera was kind of pointing here while the action was over here.
Yep, that's it.
A lot of it didn't make any sense, and a lot of it that might be a case of a set designer, set decorator, what have you, that wanted to make a feature film that was well enough known to be able to draw the funds and to get the clout to make the film, but didn't actually have the chops to make a film at that level.
Yes,
so,
I think so.
And then that is like you learn that. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, and I know I'm not. If somebody walked up to my house with $200 million and say, make your sci-fi opera, I'd be overwhelmed. And I've been doing this a while. You don't just like jump feet first into a big budget film and think that you're going to make a movie. There's a reason why you don't give that 16-year-old kid with a camera who's been making YouTube videos $200 million to make his movie. It's just the chops aren't there. The final, you're never going to get the final product that you need with somebody more seasoned or more experienced in that kind of realm. And I think that's kind of what Battlefield Earth suffered from.
Well, I can accept the excuses. I will have to say that I would disagree with anything either of you said that was in the positive for that film. But this is a panel on so bad it's good, so we're not here to cleverly review film, so I'm not
Trolls
going to say
too.
why I say not, but you have something you wish to say.
Yeah, sir, thank you for mentioning Battlefield Earth. I am an evangelist for Battlefield Earth.
All right.
I have, every time somebody mentions, oh, it's the worst movie of all time, it's so fun, I'm like, please go watch Battlefield Earth. Every single decision in Battlefield Earth does not go the direction you expect it to. I don't think it can be graded on a scale that I would grade any other movie. It is the most
That's
fun
fair.
you can have watching a movie. I would watch John Travolta and Forrest Whitaker in that film, edited into every other film, and it would improve it. The way the characters talk,
Yeah.
the way the characters are designed, the fact that the aliens are just shrieking teenage girls. They're the dumbest characters I've ever seen in a movie. It's experimental. It's mind-blowing. Please watch Battlefield Earth.
Hey,
You will
listen.
not be sad.
Thank-
You will be so happy.
Thank you.
I will say
Thank you.
it is not my least favorite film of all time.
Oh,
it's
no.
it's hardly in my bottom 10 of all time.
No, absolutely.
So
Yeah,
And let me
absolutely.
piggyback on something that you said. The film has its very clever elements to it. It is meant to be partially a satire as well, and so the aliens are there and they're looking at pictures of, our culture, and there's a person driving a convertible. I forget what brand of convertible, and there's a dog sitting in the back of the car, and the two aliens conclude from this visual is, well, obviously the dogs were the higher level of species on the planet Earth, because he's demanding that this human drive him around, and it's clever little bits like that are good. And Forrest Whitaker gives an excellent. Thank you for mentioning that. I believe him as the Cyclone. John Travolta. Maybe not as much, but the problem is I've been out to a number of the Writers of the Future events, and John sometimes will come out and flip hamburgers for people at the event, and he's very social, and it's hard to conjoin these two, his one really bad character with the very nice gentleman that he actually is. So. But thank you for that. Thank you. Wow.
I do think we need to move along from our single film that we have mentioned. So
Go
see if
for
we
it.
can get a little bit faster on that. So Patrick, do you have a film that you would like to bring up?
Well, when it comes to So Bad It's Good, I will always, especially if you're in the room, I'm forever going to talk about the Sleepaway Camp films. All of them. Because they have to be taken together to be properly appreciate all the genius that is the Sleepaway Camp films. There's a lot going on in that first one. There is
Can you repeat the name of the?
Sleepaway Camp. Yes, the Sleepaway Camp. I would advise watching the first one and then watch it again. And the first time through, you're going to say, oh my God, this is unbelievably terrible. That ending, what the hell? But then you're gonna watch it again and you're gonna be like, they're actually trying to say something with this. And the more times you watch it, the more you're just like, okay, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot more than just, well, I won't give away the ending in case you all need to watch it, but there's a twist ending that is less twisty than you'd think, but yeah, there's a whole lot going on with that one. And you and I had some pretty extensive conversations about this film.
You showed that to me.
I did many years ago. Showed that one to you.
And yeah, that seems to fit.
There's a I think that we're in 2022 now. There's a whole lot of social issues that have popped up over the course of the last couple of years, and I think that a lot of those were covered in 1985 with Sleepaway Camp. There's a lot that's being investigated there that we're examining these days.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and advocate for that to the extent of you do want a couple drinks.
Yeah, you know, by a couple drinks, you mean a couple kegs.
Sure.
Haven't seen those, but I do want to add you're missing a whole category of so bad they're good. Every one of those clips you showed was made before I was 10 years old. They're very old films, so they kind of have a category all their own.
Well,
Some of them actually weren't bad films for their time, but they haven't aged well. I can still watch them, but I grew up watching them.
I actually really like
And
my
Wolfman is a good film.
You know,
thank you, it.
we had a panel a couple nights ago about the birth of the monsters, and you know, we were talking about Bride of Frankenstein, and so on, and it was easy to agree with those films. The Wolfman always appeared to me as like a low-rent Dracula, that's all, and
it's fine to be wrong, John.
The ghost of
and-
Maria Osplenskaya is gonna come and get you.
Okay, wait.
So-
We are getting bogged down, so go ahead.
First, a request, when you go back to doing the film festival, can we still have a track of, like this, what we did this year?
We always did.
Okay,
Yeah.
my question is, I got about half of the clips that you showed at the beginning, can you just quickly run through the names of them?
Sure, let's see if I remember them all properly. It was Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Fantastic film.
Yeah.
Star Crash.
House of Blood.
Thank you. House
Thank
of
you.
Blood. That's Mr. Bowl. Distinguished auteur who pretty much any of his films, but that's really the one. That was actually, I'm having a hard time remembering the name of it because that was actually about the 5th Gamera movie.
Oh, that was Gamera versus Zebra.
Thank you. And I would highly suggest if you're going to Gamera, you start at the first.
Start at the beginning.
And not start with that one. I only chose that specific one because it was the one where I could get the best clip of the song. But any of them. And then Queen of Outer Space.
Yes.
Cha-cha.
Which is surprisingly difficult to find.
It is.
Yeah, which does get to our question then, since I did have a little bit more meaning to with my first selection here of can people guess which film of those that we just mentioned was the one that made me think that yes, there are so bad there are good movies. One of those clips is the one that turned me around.
Camera.
It was not Gamera. That movie's painful for me to
Yeah,
watch.
this is really hard.
Was it Stella? Star Crash?
And Star Crash was getting me there. Yeah, but it turned out it wasn't that because there's long segments of Star Crash that I really want to go in and edit. Although we should talk about Star Crash,
Well-
but that should leave the obvious.
Yeah.
Well, since I said you're close.
I've
Let
got
it
a
be.
number of related to several Star Crash.
Oh.
It's Queen of Outer Space.
Of Queen of Outer
It's
Space.
absolutely Queen
It's
of
so
Outer
much fun.
Space.
That film is fun.
And I think what I was going to bring up is one of the things I think that hits with these so bad they're good films are ones that are titillating in the most G-rated way imaginable. Films that are really violent without having any real violence. Films that are really gory without having any real gore, so that they're fun. And in this case, films that are sexy without really having anything sexual. I mean, there's no naked people in that film. It's Zsa Zsa Gabor and a bunch of models walking around, usually in long gowns. But the whole thing is very sexy. And it becomes just very funny. But it's kind of that, this is really sexy, and yet I can watch this with my mom.
Because you're watching just for Zsa Zsa, of course.
Zsa Zsa, the whole stream of the Venetian girls in it. But I think since you bring up Star Crash, you said you had a.
Well, I was also looking at these movies that are bad that are good, and there are about a dozen movies that came out in the wake of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Some of them good, some of them really terrible. But so just bear with me for a moment. Message from Space.
Yeah, very bad.
Okay, Masters of the Universe. Flash Gordon. And we might as well also mention Flash Gordon while we're at it.
That's a perfect parody.
Stella Star Crash, Star Odyssey, sorry Battlestar Galactica, Star Chaser, The Legend of Orin.
Oh
and,
yeah, that's
and then at the top of the list is Battle Beyond, I call it Battle Beyond Credibility, but
Battle Beyond the
it's Battle
Stars.
Beyond the Stars. And,
For all.
you know, some of them are actually quite good. I mean, I don't buy this spaceship that has a pair of ladies' breasts and a set of ovaries to it. That's the one that John Boy from the Waltons drives. But the film is a hell of a lot of fun. It's a remake of The Magnificent Seven.
yes.
And James Cameron was the man working behind the scene on the special effects. So,
Obviously.
Yeah, how could you have missed that?
how can you miss James Cameron? But you know, Robert Vaughn is there reprising his role. He got shot up in The Magnificent Seven, but here he is back again. And George Papard is a space cowboy.
That's
You
right,
know,
yeah.
can you believe it? The only thing I'll add about Stella Star Crash is Luigi Cosi, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He rips off Star Wars lightsabers,
Mhm.
and there's no credit whatsoever.
Yeah,
and
if you
then-
saw that they
Yeah.
put that in a clip.
And he's got the cute little robots as well.
Mhm.
And of course, Stella Star Crash. Who is that?
Carolyn Monroe.
Carolyn Monroe. Yeah, Bond girl. Yum yum.
Yeah, just a gorgeous woman who made. She was also in Hammer Films.
Hammer Films, exactly. Yeah.
And really my favorite has been a favorite all my life, which I refuse to say is so bad it's good because it's just brilliant, which is The Golden Voyage of Sinbad.
Oh, that was great. Oh, yeah, that's actually,
That was
yeah.
her as well.
And yeah,
That's just a good film. I don't think, I wouldn't even go for a so bad it's good.
no, that's what but
Yeah,
but people do. So I'm just defending that one
Because
straight up
people
as
are
that's a
dumb.
great
Yeah.
movie.
That is a good, it is.
Because
it is-
Tom Baker is a little over the top, but that's what you're gonna get.
Yeah, it would be a strange thing going, I want to hire Tom Baker for the subtle role. I think he's just about at the right level.
Yeah.
But
So
Star Crash.
Yeah, but I mentioned Roger Corman.
Mm.
You know, we can look back at several of his other films. Death Race 2000.
Yes.
That is fantastic.
Which is genius. That's a genius film.
It is, and you know, we're still, I don't know about you, but when I'm driving in my car, how much if we run over that hill? And, you know, I mentioned that once to somebody, and they said, oh, that's really dark. And I said, didn't you ever see Death Race 2000? And I'm always surprised with the number of people who haven't seen it. I mean, they remade it into something
And
that
that's
was
what's good.
terrible.
That's
Yeah.
a good example here of what you take with a movie that we can argue with Death Race 2000 on whether that's a good film or a so bad it's a good film, because that's in many ways that's kind of the film where we can have that discussion.
Yeah, yeah.
But then, and they've done this multiple times, when they take that and remake it, you just have junk.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
And yeah, it's
There's
just abysmal.
no resemblance of the original at all.
There's no feel of fun with it at all. You watch this the whole time, and it's like I see that they watched the original when they made this, but that heart, which makes it either good or so bad they're good, is missing.
Well, the social commentary is thrown on too. Like that
sure.
entire film is nothing but a big F you to mankind and all the horrible things we keep doing to each other, and the ultimate development of what, if we keep on this path, this is what society's going to turn into. That's what that first one's all about. The second one is just like, let's slaughter some people. You know,
Yeah.
it completely missed the heart. Missed the point.
Sylvester Stallone.
I love him.
And Carradine. I mean, come on now. And Carradine plays this character
Yeah.
named Dr.
No, he's just Frankenstein.
Just
No
Frankenstein.
doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah. Roger Corman, yeah.
Pretty much we can go through and list almost all of Corman's movies, and we can discuss them. And in the same way, I was going to say with Stella, with Star Crash, we can take a look at pretty much all of the Italian films being made around that time, because there's a whole series of the Satellite series, and I'm trying to think of the names. Anybody remember the names of the Satellite movies? There's 4 of them. Italian science fiction.
Like War of the Planets.
Yeah,
That's one of them.
that's-
Yes.
Which I think is the first one.
I
in that
believe it
series.
is.
Yeah, I can't remember the other 3. But yeah, I mean, they were just trying to make cheap rip-offs to get stuff out there so they would have content just to ride coattails.
And they certainly fall into the area we're looking at. They all have some, well, they're all really sexist.
Well, so are the American movies.
Well, yeah, but on an extra level. They also seem to have it so that every male in it apparently just shoots up testosterone before going out, because they're always like, "Hey, I'm here. I'm the boss of this thing. You over there." And there's a lot of that, and you've got a lot of the women just coming around and going, "I have the coffee now."
Not so much in Stella, but
Not in Stella, but
Right.
in the Satellite movies, and the Green Slime, which was also
awesome.
connected to those, because that's an Italian-Japanese co-production, so that you would have the acting and the character development of the Italian films merged in with the special effects from the Japanese films.
another Bond girl,
Yes.
Luigi.
I
I
cannot
can't pronounce it either, but Paluzzi is her last name.
But once again, we do not get her voice, so.
That's not common.
So, out there, all of you, before we fall down our rabbit hole of Italian and Roger Corman films, what's your so bad they're good, and why?
Oh, excellent.
The bee movie. It is Jerry Seinfeld's bee who sues the entire human race for enslaving bees and steals Patrick, whatever his name's girlfriend.
Although it also has a weird romance between a bee and a woman.
Yes, yes, he steals his Mr. Seward girl, the bee form.
I think the romance is really what makes it.
Yeah.
Sure, go ahead.
I want to add on to that, and the fact when that other bee stings the man in the butt, and then they place a tiny sword, that's not supposed to work, because why they die is when they sting them, their sting gets stuck, so when they try to pull it, it pulls all their organs out.
And this isn't even Invasion of the Bee Girls.
No. That's different. So we got a lot of votes here for the Bee movie.
I think my personal favorite is the story of Ricky that took on
Oh, yeah.
really violent stuff, especially the dubbed version. I think it doesn't get enough attention, and for me, what makes it is they have deliberately set out to make a comedy. Like guys who made Mr. Show have made the movie exactly like that. Everyone would think it's one of the funniest films ever, but nobody ever seems to bring it up because they were kind of being serious and how they so badly executed fight scenes and violence.
I do have to apparently walk back my own comment earlier that's much of the so bad they're good is because it's sort of G-rated these titillating things. Story of Ricky, that's really violent.
And that's actually something we haven't touched on in this panel at all, is when you go into martial arts films. We've got a vast history of very bizarre martial arts films, especially when you hit post Bruce Lee days, and you started continuing to have Bruce Lee movies being made after Bruce Lee was dead, with Bruce L.I. or
Yes, people whose names
Yes.
are similar to Bruce Lee as these. Do you have a favorite? Just martial arts. Fits into this. Not good martial art, but fits into this.
You know, I'm a huge fan of the Shaw Brothers films.
Yeah.
I love the Shaw Brothers films. I could talk forever about Shaw Brothers films and actually the importance of the importance of a lot of the Shaw Brothers films in Chinese history was one of the things we touched on when I did that documentary in China. But boy, I could from the early days to even those terrible American martial arts films of the 80s. When you throw in things like those, Canon I think was the production house was putting out all those like American ninja films, and you know when even before the days of like Jean-Claude Van Damme, you had this whole collection of, if you're punching and kicking, it's a martial arts films, and apparently there's 1 billion ninjas in the world, and it's all secret societies that are also controlling the world economy through their ninja house that didn't exist in Northern California. I don't think they're great. I love those.
Well, I can add then The Bloody Parrot as a choice. Shaw Brothers with a little bit of horror tinged into it, but lots of martial arts.
Well, Matthew, since you've been so chaste with some of the films that you've given us, can we have it one at least that has lots of nudity and gratuitous?
Well, let's get John's nudity here. Yes,
we gotta have Paul Verhoeven's Showgirls.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
I mean, isn't that a great film for lots of nudity and sexuality and whatever?
Yeah, but it's
You know what? I don't know how Paul Verhoeven managed to make that film, because I love his other films, and before I think of Showgirls, I think of Basic Instinct and some of the other things that came before it. And after he went back to Germany, he ended up making this incredible spy epic that was about a woman who infiltrated the Nazi party and was getting secrets out, and that's his, I guess, #1 film over in Europe.
What's the name of it?
You know, I'm drawing a blank, but if you put in.
I know the film you mean, I can't think
Sorry?
of it. I know the film you mean, I can't think of the name.
Who has a
either.
name for that?
I can't think of the name.
Okay,
I know the one you mean,
does
though.
someone, yes, sir. Black Book, that's it, that's it. And you have to watch it in subtitles, not been dubbed, but it's a tremendous film, and I think he made the most money out of a European film up to that point.
Well, with Verhoeven, I have to also mention a film I haven't seen, but it needs to be brought up then because it gives us a whole new genre to talk about, which is his latest, and I don't know if people have seen it, but he made a nunsploitation film.
Oh, is that right?
Very good.
And yeah, I've seen a lot of the reviews, and I remember one of the reviews starting with, I thought he was going to take this whole concept and make it respectable and all of it. No, he just went and made a straight old school nunsploitation. So what'd you think of it?
It's a fun lesbian nun movie. It has, in a way, Paul Verhoeven is a scholar of the historical Jesus, and it's a way for him to talk about that through whether or not this nun's religious experiences are real.
Well, there's so much.
If you want to see a movie with a nun masturbating with a cross, this is the movie for you.
Oh, there's a ton of those.
Yeah, we have
There's always the devils.
yeah, if you want to, for nunsploitation, yeah, there's the devils, and then I need help on the pronunciation, but anyone who's seen From Dusk Till Dawn should be able to help me. The name of the dancer in From Dusk Till Dawn.
I know what you're talking about.
That, can you say that?
That's it.
Thank you.
Yes.
He took that name from the title of a movie and just gave it to her, and that's a Mexican nunsploitation movie, and it's filmed gorgeously. I mean, it is the greatest colors you ever saw. It's just a marvelous thing to look at. But that's a wonderful one. But I have to go to some people who haven't had a chance yet. So go ahead. So yeah, Star Trek.
I wanted to add to the Riccio conversation. When I was in high school, I got a VHS tape that was like really poorly subtitled, and I've never been able to find that particular subtitle of the movie again. Back in high school, my friends and I used to quote it, but the one that you see circulated now, the one that you get on DVD, has a different subtitle. I don't know, I guess I'd call that lost media, but it's just interesting. That one was really the funniest version to me.
Probably video search of language. Video search of language.
Nice.
Is that's the name of the subtitler?
Yeah.
Okay,
Alright.
I'll try to find that.
Okay, that guy ought to be up here.
Yeah, no kidding. Well done.
Because I've had a lot of fun with subtitles, just in them being wrong. But sometimes I will find different subtitles for movies, particularly because I do like the Godzilla movies. So I've seen a bunch of those, and you kind of put the subtitles together, and they're not saying the same thing.
I run into that with anime.
She had a comment also.
Yes.
Oh,
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, I was gonna
Yes, sir.
change to a different film, so it was about this film. Okay. So for some context, at the beginning of COVID, I said, hey, let's have a virtual bad movie night. We can keep it going until quarantine's over. So now we watched 150 so bad it's good movies on purpose. And I have a ton of recommendations, but the one that I'm gonna pull out of my list, it's really hard not to recommend the North Korean children's Titanic animated musical, which is not the same as the other talking animal animated Titanic musical that also has a rapping dog in it. That's a different movie. Yes, and there's a sequel where they go on an undersea adventure.
That's the North Korean one you say?
The
Or?
North Korean one, they go on an undersea adventure.
No, North Korea is always a good place to look.
Yes.
But the one I have here is The Lair of the White Worm.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
sure,
Is it
yeah.
here on any list?
great
Yeah.
movie.
Oh, you see, I fight for that as a good movie.
That's a great movie.
Yeah, really. It's
I would
legit.
fight for that as an entertaining movie.
I mean, Hugh Grant
Yeah.
with Doctor Who.
That's in that really weird like mid-late 80s into the early 90s video store favorites kind of film where there's a lot of really crazy stuff that came out of that, but some of them, like Lair of the White Worm, those were legit good films. They were just didn't have distribution the way for
Do you remember the bagpipe scene?
Oh, I love the
Love it.
bagpipe scene. Absolutely.
Love it.
Yeah,
No one told me about the bagpipe scene.
I love pretty much every moment of that film. Who's the vampire snake lady? Thank you.
Oh, yes. that's
Man,
right.
Get this guy a chair. What do you-
You are our favorite person. Yeah, Amanda Donahoe. When she's doing the dance, and the one where she does the dance and then gets interrupted, and she has to sink the kid below the water. Just art.
It's wonderful.
There's a woman all the way to the back in that last row.
I was signaling 5 minutes.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Awesome.
I thought you had something to add.
I do have a movie, it's called Millennium, with Chris Christopherson and Carol Ladd.
Yep.
You know, it's got climate change way before its time. It's based on a John Barley short story. Pollution has destroyed the earth in the future, and they're sending people back to take bodies off of airplanes that are going to crash.
Yeah, I've seen that about 5-6 times. I read the book first, and yes, that definitely fits into the so bad it's. Let's say it's Chris Christopherson.
Christopherson.
Not one of the best acting performances likely to run into. Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, this is one I just saw a few months ago, but it's called Battle in Outer Space.
Oh, no, that's terrific.
That's a good.
Yeah,
That's
that's
actually
Yeah.
pretty
considered a
good.
good movie.
That,
I was like a Star Wars of the 1950s. So it's like
it was, well,
rocket ships and everything,
60,
but
right?
space
1960?
Yeah.
60.
Or was it
It was
59?
1959.
59?
59, okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that film.
That's
So if
60s.
you like 50s science fiction but want to see a Star Wars more action-packed one,
Yeah.
that's the one.
That comes from Toho, doesn't it? Do you remember?
I do not off the top of my head.
Yeah, I've seen that a million times. I love it. Yeah, and you know, it's all in Japanese, but occasionally you'll hear English dialogue in there because the actors who are English speak English.
Yeah, that's one of those. Nick Adams is in it, I think, and Yeah, he just does his lines in English.
Yeah, there's a whole series of films like that, and it's funny when you get people who say, I don't like dubbing films, I want the original. It's like there are no original single language versions of all these Italian films, all these they don't do that. But I had a question way back there in the corner.
Red hat.
Or comment.
One of the films I have is Nudist Colony of the Dead.
Oh yes, that's amazing. Oh my
That sounds
God.
amazing.
Nudist Colony of the Dead is amazing.
Huh. All right.
I have not seen Nudist Colony of the Dead.
It's what it says on the tin.
I gotta say, from title alone, we are certainly in the right ballpark.
I did have a question. Did anyone get a chance to see Last Circus? It is a Spanish language film. I believe it's from Mexico. Came out 6 or 7 years ago. My friend Peter turned me on to it. Fantastic film if you get to see it. It's about this guy who slowly goes crazy and decides he's going to become a clown. And at one point he burns his face with his iron, and it's absolutely insane. And I highly recommend this film. It starts off a little nutty, and then it goes completely back crazy at the end. So highly recommend it. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Thank you. Anyways.
Yeah, move here. Yeah.
The Apple. The choreograph numbers, the fiddling bell,
It's on TV.
Oh, okay, that.
Yes.
Oh.
I don't think I've ever seen that. How did I miss that one?
Yeah, it's quite wild.
Awesome. Love it. Oh, Canon film? Yeah.
Canon has
I love it.
gifted us with many things. Sure, we're low on time here, but you had something.
Let him go first.
All right, yeah.
Just speaking of movies and canon films, movies that many people will experience as a so bad good movie, I will actually full throated defend it as a genuinely good movie, but we have to shout out to Toby Hooper's Life Force.
Yes, we
Yes!
do.
Oh, I was going to mention that earlier. Yes.
And yeah, I was thinking the same thing
Space
earlier,
Vampire.
and actually, I'm gonna fight for that one to be a good movie too. But yeah, it's gonna show up here. Who's seen Life Force?
Oh yeah.
You should be one first.
Yeah,
I love Life Force.
Yeah.
It's one of those where you have to, you take the premise and you don't understand, man. It starts off as a space movie.
Uh-huh.
It turns into a vampire movie. It turns into a police procedural.
Uh-huh.
It was.
It turned into a zombie apocalypse movie, and at the center of it all is this one nude space vampire with, I kid you not, the most perfect pair of breasts.
Considering her next film after that was purely a film about her lactating. It's a French film, and it's about a boy who's obsessed with her lactating. So the whole movie is basically her topless and her breasts. Yeah, and yeah, they're pretty much like that. Now, I of course had it on Laserdisc.
Something like $40 million in 1985 money ever got thrown.
And let's not forget that is Patrick Stewart's
Stewart,
first
yeah.
screen kiss.
Yes.
With Steve Railsback. And we are really out of time, so go ahead and just give
I
us.
can't top that. My quick thing would be the Bollywood Superman.
Oh, that is genius. That one is genius. Yes.
Your definition of genius a little different than mine. And we've gone through this whole thing without going any further into Mr. Bowles' oeuvre. Nor did we get further into Plan 9 to outer space, but we are out of time.